Okay, hello, and welcome everybody to this webinar, Skill-Based Education for Dynamic Classrooms. I would want to talk about what dynamic classrooms are. I believe these are classrooms that mold learning according to the needs of the learners. It enables them to structure the pace, the path and the flow of learning. These are classrooms where students are empowered to take the ownership of their learning, share responsibilities for their own education, and even assess their own work. And I believe life skills are quite important and integral part of such classrooms. Trust the educators who believe in creating such classrooms is the need of the hour are all here to gain an insight into strategies that lead to building up of these dynamic classrooms. Today, we are here to gain certain insights into a comprehensive understanding of the concept and advantages of skill-based education in such classrooms. We're going to talk about and investigate various approaches for seamlessly incorporating these skills in the classes, acquire knowledge and tools necessary to design skill-based lessons and effectively evaluate student learning. We are going to uncover certain strategies to promote skill development in students and facilitate their overall progress. And I would like to thank each and everyone present here to join this session today and being a part of Shimanli's ever-growing community of educators that is picking up its base in various countries now. Over the past 2 months, we've been able to reach out and add educators to this community from around 114 schools from across the globe. There are some of you who've joined us for the first time, and I would like to introduce Shimanli to you. Shiman is a Japanese term that means citizen. We are on a mission to create global citizens. Shimanli is a one-stop platform where you find solutions to deliver skill-based education into your classrooms. In an endeavor to create these global citizens, Shimanli brings in facilitators from across the globe who bring in a global perspective into your classrooms. And Shimanli's dynamic curriculum is well structured and inspired by the Harvard, the UNESCO, the World Economic Forum, and so on. Shimanli also plans to build a community of educators for their professional development so that the learning reaches the learners directly. And as a part of this endeavor, we've organized today's session with Ms. Grishma Mormai. Grishma is a highly accomplished educator, leader, and a parenting expert with a history of working in the space of education for more than around 15 years. She's a sought-after keynote speaker, a mentor, a trainer who believes in innovating and inventing the best teaching practices and sharing them with educators like all of us today. She holds a bachelor's degree in human development, a postgraduate diploma in school counseling from the University of Mumbai, and a certification from the Harvard University in school leadership. She has a diverse background, starting as a kindergarten primary teacher, holding various roles as a preschool coordinator, operations head, and the head of TOTS. She has extensive experience in scripting curriculum, designing learning environments, and training teachers, having trained over 2,500 educators and school leaders till date. With a mission to provide happy children, happy teaching, and happy parenting, she's launched her e-counseling services under the name of Empowered with Grishma. She is a thought leader and innovative academician focused on engaging with students and educators to meet learning objectives and drive student learning. Further, she is committed to providing empowering leadership through communicative practices and motivational strategies. She has excelled in team building, cultural improvement, and enhancing happiness quotient of the school. And I look forward to a happy interaction with her and all of you today. Hand over the stage to her. Thanks, Grishma, for being a part.
Thank you, Ruchira, for the introduction and giving me the opportunity of conducting this webinar. Good evening, all of you. I really want to pat back of each one of you because the academic year for some schools have started. For some schools, the summer break have started, but still you managed to attend this webinar. Says a lot about you and tells me how passionate and dedicated you are. So I can't give you a pat on everyone's back, but definitely clap for every educator who's present here today. So, yes, a very, very interesting topic, a lot of things to share. So I will get in directly to the topic. We all know that the times are changing. Now, 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds are no more playing with the mud, no more outside, outside the house playing, but they are mostly on iPhones and tabs and Xboxes. Children are born into a vastly digital world, and right from day one, when they enter, their pictures are being clicked and circulated on WhatsApp and social media. So they enter into the world with digital, right? And food is Swiggy today, and the picture of that food is immediately on Instagram and, and WhatsApp within seconds. And after that, children generally watch Netflix and chill. So we all have realized that human interactions have taken a back seat, right? While virtual reality is on the rise. The economy and the technology is revolving around it, rapidly transforming on day-to-day basis. Now, tell me one thing, in such a scenario, in such an environment, is it fair to teach today's growing youth conform to age-old educational practices? I want to hear everyone's thought in the chat box. Do you think that it's fair to teach today's children who are born in this digital world with age-old educational practices? Come on, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you could just type in chat box, I will be able to read your message. Do you think it's fair? No. No. I would love if anyone could also say reason. No, we will have to cater to the skills of today, right? And that's what our topic is all about. No, I'm so glad at least we are on the same page, right? Now, what is skill, right? Skill is the ability coming from one's knowledge, practice, aptitude to do something well. Yes, it's a definition from dictionary. What I want to bring your notice is, it's not that when you have a skill-based education or a curriculum, the knowledge-based is not important. The first thing is, the skill is the ability that is coming from one's knowledge. So transferring of knowledge is important. But what has happened nowadays is we've stuck only to knowledge, and we have not moved to practice and aptitude. So that is where skill-based education comes into the picture. So what is skill-based education? It is an approach to education that emphasizes on, of course, developing practical skills and competencies which are applied to real-world situations rather than just acquiring knowledge. It is much more than acquiring knowledge. Knowledge is just one part of it, but practice and aptitude is where we are missing today. So it also refers to an approach that focuses on, of course, developing specific skills and competencies alongside the traditional academic knowledge. So let us just give few minutes in understanding difference between knowledge and skill. What is a knowledge-based education and what is skill-based education? So the skill-based education comes from an understanding that everything is learned better when it is practiced, right? On the other hand, the knowledge-based learning focuses more on rote learning and traditional read and write system. So if we want our children to thrive in this era, it is important to strike a balance between knowledge and skill, the right balance. Let us remember when we were kids or we were students, do you remember your chemistry classes where we had to learn or by heart the periodic table, right? That is knowledge-based. But there were many schools who were conducting practical classes and experiments where students could carry out some experiments to understand how these elements would react with each other. That is skill-based, right? So our day-to-day life is also an illustrator of knowledge versus skills. So again, let me give you one more example. If you're a sports person, right, knowing all the rules of the game, the statistic of the sport, knowing their teams and players does not make someone a good player or a sports player. You need skills. Even the aerospace engineers are experts when it comes to flight theory and avionics, but they cannot fly aircraft. Vis-a-vis, if I have to compare that, a pilot who has a minimal knowledge of flight theory and avionics as compared to aerospace engineers is the person who actually flies a plane. So this gives us a very clear understanding of knowledge versus skill. Knowledge, if you actually also look at this image, knowledge is scattered, right? And when you say experience, which means your skills, they connect dots, right, between different information. Our brain looks like what you see on the left side of your image, everything scattered, if only knowledge is being transferred into our brains. But when the skills and the practice and the experience has been involved, everything gets connected. Okay, let's look at 4 reasons why all of us should adopt skill-based education. First thing, it creates a sense of independence in children because it allows the children to think outside the box and promote high level of problem solving. It improves and encourages creativity. It helps students to come up with innovative solutions to the same old problem. This could be just a new way to solve a puzzle or a groundbreaking design principle that no one has thought of. Needless to say, skill-based education really gets the creative juices out of children, right? It builds cooperation and teamwork. Many skill-based learning activities, when implemented, they are conducted in groups, which encourages students to collectively solve an issue, build good communication, coordination, and team spirit. And the last reason, which I feel is the most important, is that knowledge alone is not enough. A medical student is actually not going to begin performing surgeries on living humans simply after reading an instructional manual. They need skills to perform a surgery, and the only way to develop it is with practice, right? So I think I have given you many reasons to adopt or to focus on skill-based education. But when I always talk about skill-based education, the next questions always come up is, which skills should we introduce in classrooms? What are the skills that needs to be introduced to children? So let's look at some of the social skills, some of the skills. So the first one is social skills, which helps children feel that I care, I share, I help, I wait for my turn. So social skills are more concerned with students cooperating and accepting responsibility as they work with other students. Students are expected to respect others, resolving any conflict that may arise, and to be involved in group decision making, as they are adopting a variety of group roles during the learning and sharing process. So here's what teachers can do. Teacher can set up learning experiences where students work in pairs or in groups so that students can collaborate, and while doing so, be able to have a sense of fairness and respect others. Respect other students' perspective, other students' emotions, thoughts, right? The setup can take the form of games or discussions. For example, you can also have, students watching a video together and then discussing its content. Apart from this, here are some strategies to develop social skills in children. The first one is assigning classroom jobs. Now, as teachers, of late I see many teachers feeling a little guilty when they assign some classroom responsibilities and duties to students. But we must provide or assign classroom responsibilities to students, because it provides opportunities for them to demonstrate responsibility, teamwork and leadership. Small jobs like handing out paper, taking attendance, being a line leader, being a pencil leader, book leader, can highlight a student's strength and in turn build confidence. And also it elevates your workload a little bit. Yeah, this also helps in classroom management because some children need some movement, and that's why we also need to give them these classroom responsibilities, right? Teachers often, you can also rotate classroom jobs on a weekly or a monthly basis, ensuring that every student in your class has an opportunity to participate, to demonstrate social skills, to demonstrate their responsibility. Right? Next is role play social situations. Now, as any teacher knows, all of us know that it's important to not only teach students a concept or lesson, but then also give them a chance to practice what they have learned. For example, if we teach students how to multiply, then we often provide a worksheet or an activity for the students to show us their understanding of multiplication, right? And the same holds true for teaching social skills. We need to provide students with opportunities to learn and practice their social skills. And an effective method of practice is through role playing. So you can provide structured scenarios in which the students can act out, and you can offer immediate feedback. Role play, I generally see that it gets little reduced after grade 2, grade 3, it all comes down. But even with middle school and high school, role play really works well. And role play is not just about picking up some play, Shakespeare play, and performing it. It's much more than that. We have to give them real-time situations. Okay, next is pen pals. This is also something that has been forgotten, but I think it's high time we start getting our old things back. So it's when I was in school, my teacher arranged for us to become pen pals with children from another school, and I used to absolutely look forward to it. This activity was my absolute favorite, and also for on many different academic levels, because it actually taught students or us how to demonstrate social skills through written communication. This is what is missing today. We are unable to express ourselves through written communication. It worked really well for some children in my class, my classmates, who were introvert personalities, who were not comfortable, talking with other people. Writing letters also gave us some time to collect our thoughts. It leveled the playing field for students who had special needs or were non-verbal also. So I was also able to provide, teacher also provided us structured sentence frames in which we could held polite conversations with our pen pals. So I think this is extremely important. And now there are different, different groups. There are different groups who actually help you connect to pen pals. So I would recommend teachers to start having, encourage this activity in your classroom. Next is large and small group activities. We all know the benefits of academic benefits of these activities. So large and small group activities can actually give opportunity to students to develop their social skills, such as teamwork, goal setting, and responsibility. So either you can assign some roles, or students can assign themselves some roles, like being a reporter, being a scribe, being a timekeeper. All of these roles can be assigned to children. Sometimes these groups are, self-determined, and you can also arrange it if you want, if you're very specific about which children will go into which group. You can also pre-arrange it. So used selectively, group work can also help quieter students connect with others. It is more appealing for extrovert students, and it also reinforces respectful behaviors. So some of the examples of large group activities could be group discussions, group projects, games. And for small group activities, some examples could be, small assignments or activities that can finish in one period. Next is big buddies. I absolutely love this concept. This is more like a peer learning, but it is like a child from, say, grade 5 and grade 3 will work together, right? And we all know that learning to interact with peers is a very important social skill. So it is just as important to learn how to interact with others who may be younger or older. I'm sure as teachers, you would have observed that there are many children who are not comfortable with their age group, because there are mostly either single child at home and they are dealing only with adults. So in this case, big buddies sometimes really work well. So the big buddy system is a great way for students to learn how to communicate with and respect different age groups. So in this, often an older class will pair up with a younger class for an art project, or for reading time, or for reading club, or for playing some games. Now, some things that we need to keep in mind is that these type of activities needs to be pre-planned, and it has to be carefully designed, keeping students' strengths and interest in mind. Usually, classroom teachers generally meet ahead of time to create pairings of students and to prepare a very structured activity. There is also a time set aside for the teachers to set guidelines for interactions and ideas for conversation topics. So entire school can also implement this buddy system to enrich your students' lives. But I think most important thing that we need to remember is being well prepared and putting conscious efforts in pairing, keeping the students' interest and strengths in mind. Then it will be a successful project in your school. Class stories. There are dozens of stories for children that teach social skills in direct ways, right? So you can find different strategies to incorporate these stories in your class program. Again, it's a very, stories are part of every school. But again, I think we all have observed that as children go to higher grades, the number of stories that they are introduced to is reduced. So this is a gentle reminder for primary, middle school, and high school teachers to also include stories in your lesson plans. Yes, you can also set aside some time each day to read aloud a story to the entire class. You can also have your students, read aloud the story, or you can even use a story to teach a lesson. I was working in a school in Mumbai, and there was a teacher in that school who introduced history through stories. And I would go and sit and listen to that teacher again. She was my colleague. But because I had learned history in a very boring way and it was not one of my favorite subjects, the moment I started attending the teacher's class, she was using stories as a big tool to introduce history to children. And trust me, it was so interesting. So sometimes we really take stories for granted. We do not use it as a complete tool. So this is a gentle reminder for all of us to use classroom tools, as classroom stories. Next, class meeting. Why should there be meetings only for teachers? Why can't we have teachers and students doing class meetings? Because it is a wonderful way to teach students how to be diplomatic, how to show leadership, how to solve problems, and how to take responsibility. They are usually held, you can either plan it weekly or at a time for students to discuss current classroom events and issues. Right? Successful and productive meetings would include discussions centered around classroom concerns and not individual problems. So if there is a situation in your classroom, organize a meeting, have a discussion with your children, with your students. Yes, class meeting is something that is missing nowadays because there are too many meetings only for the teachers. Okay. It also reinforces the value that each person brings to the class, because we are listening to every person in the discussion. Before the meeting, you can also provide the students with group guidelines for behaviors, for prompts, and so that meaningful and purposeful conversations happen in the discussion, right? And the last one is explicit instruction to teach social skills. Finally, we need to carve out a time in our curriculum to directly teach social skills to our students, right? And Shiminley really provides teachers and schools with explicit lesson plans for social development. So you can reach out to them because these programs provide various schools and classrooms with a common language, set of behavior expectations and goals for the future. Sometimes, like we said, along with the practice, knowledge transfer is also important. So when you are doing a lot of all these strategies, explicit instructions are also important. Yes. The next skill that we are going to focus on is self-management skills, right? It's self-management is more about, making children believe in I can, I can do it. I can solve problems, right? I can do it. I can achieve it. I can achieve my goals, right? I'm being mindful. So self-management actually refers to the ability for students to manage their behaviors, their thoughts, and most importantly, their emotions in a manner that supports the progression of learning in a productive way. And self-management was one skill that has been brought to the forefront during COVID-19 period, when everything was online, where students had to work independently when everyone was online, right? Children had to learn on their own, study on their own, manage on their own, right? So self-management, like all the other skills that we'll be talking about, need time to develop, right? And they look little different depending on the age and context, right? So students demonstrate that they have acquired self-management skills when they can plan learning strategies and take actions to achieve their goals. But of course, the goals have to be very, very realistic and achievable, right? But here, your role as a teacher is to scaffold the whole process for children. You can even provide a checklist. As a checklist is a very useful strategy for students. They can develop which they can use to develop their independence and ultimately mastery, right? So let us look at some of the strategies. The first one is team operating agreements, right? If I have to put across in a very simple way, it is actually co-creating rules along with your children, right? So agreements or contracts created or co-created with the students can be a great tool to help them with their challenges when it comes to self-management. You might have your own classroom or school norms, but what happens is some students are unable to resonate with your rules. They are unable to find true attachment with your rules. So when students create norms or when they create rules, they are more likely to, follow them. And in addition, students can create norms and agreements that are even personalized. While one team of your class, for example, can, they will need an agreement or a rule to keep their hands and feet to themselves. And there might be some children who would actually need some rule or some agreement to actually express their thoughts or ideas, right? So norms and agreements should meet the students' need and not simply be imposed or enforced upon them. When students help create the norms, it's more likely that they will actually meet the students' need. So it's important that we co-create the rules with them. And it's not just that it can happen in primary and middle school and high school only, it can happen in pre-primary and early years also. We can co-create rules with in early years also. Task list. In addition, students may need, some guidance and scaffolding to organize their thinking, to organize their planning and their overall work. So you can use task list to assign tasks to specific team members. And sometimes these sheets have places for teachers, team leaders, and others to just sign off when tasks are being completed. So task lists are nothing but your to-do list. I think even when children are growing up and going to corporate and working, I think we all need to-do list. And as students, we were not taught how to create to-do list. So this is an important self-management skill that we need to introduce our children to. Checklist and rubrics. Yes, it is a tried and tested tools for self-management. I don't see anything new here, but it's a good reminder that assessment tools can also be great management tools. Your report cards, your checklist, your rubrics can also be great management tools because they promote reflection, goal setting, and most importantly, ownership of their work. But what we miss out on is checklist and rubrics are more powerful or more effective when they are co-created with students, right? Because students need to understand and take ownership of their learning outcomes. So you can keep checklist and rubrics available to students and plan and having, keep some time for students to use them to assess themselves and also their peers. Peer learning is also important. Most of the US universities, when you do graduates and postgraduate and master degrees, peer learning is one of the most important element in every course that you do from US, right? So peer learning can also help. Time management logs. Time management is also a skill that is not being introduced, right? So it's not necessary that always we should have a timetable. Children can also create a timetable for themselves, how their day is looking. Okay, right now everyone will do maybe English subject and that 15 minutes everyone will work on an assignment. So time management logs also documents how long they spend time on specific tasks, assignments or collaborative work, right? You can do this. So students and teachers can together do this over the course of a week or maybe longer. Right? Flexible seating and spaces. I'm a big fan of a classroom that has variety of places for students to work, right? Sometimes we all go out to cafe and work because we feel we are able to focus better. We like the ambience, right? Similarly, when you give that option for children to choose which space they want to work from, trust me, they are really engaged, right? So because some students prefer quiet zones, while some students need more collaborative tables. Some students work well with exercise balls, right, as seats because they constantly need movement, while some children prefer standing desk, right? So there are many possibilities for meeting students' need in classroom seating and arrangement. So let's look at the next strategy, that is reflection and goal setting. But you know what? Reflection starts first from you. How many of us as teachers reflect on how our lesson looked like or how our day was? We do not get time for reflection. We do not get time for goal setting, right? But it starts from us. And I request everyone, some teachers have started the new academic year, some will start in August. Irrespective of that, make sure that you put in an habit to reflect on your day, because this is one of the most important self-management skill. And if you know how to do it, you will be able to teach your students, right? Because all the about tools or strategies that we've discussed are completely ineffective unless they are paired with reflection time. Nothing will work out, because you can have agreements, you can have lists, you can have checklists, but do you have time to reflect, okay, what is done, what is not done, what is the way forward, right? So I request everyone, there are different learning logs available. There are different formats available where you can provide it to students to reflect on how their day went, or what did they learn, what is something they want to know more about, right? You have your exit slips also, you have KWL charts. Apart from that, reflection, like just writing your reflection is also important. Okay, so we are done with 2 skills, and the next is thinking skill, right? I have ideas. I'm sorry. So what are thinking skills? Teachers, I feel we should be intentional about our teaching objectives or your learning objectives, learning outcomes, whatever you call in your school. They should enforce thinking skills. The lessons should be planned in a way that encourages students to become more skillful in their thinking. Some strategies, I'm sure everyone has heard, like visible thinking routines. They assist students to focus their attention on certain concepts and ultimately develop HOTS, HOTS, which is high order thinking skills, right? So in classroom, making thinking more explicit would provide students with opportunities to think more clearly, right? So what are some of the strategies to develop thinking skills? Ask questions, right? And you know, I would like to add one point which I thought of maybe I'm missing. Once you ask questions, what is more important is wait time. Tomorrow, when you go to your class, ask question to your students, right? And you will see that if students have not responded within 1 or 2 seconds, you actually start giving them hints or you move on to the next student. We do not give time for children to listen to a question, to think, to interpret, and then frame an answer for us to give. And that requires some time, right? So the ideal wait time is around 4 to 5 seconds, right? So we all know that asking especially open-ended questions, it gives students a chance to apply what they have learned and most importantly, build on their prior knowledge. It also allows them to problem solve and think on their feet and boost self-esteem, right? Because you are actually giving them a chance for to students to express them freely in front of their classmates. But please observe the wait time. Yes, just asking questions is not enough, but giving them that wait time to think and frame the answer is equally important. Encourage decision making. How do we do that? By playing decision making games. Like tic-tac-toe is a decision making game. by also, for example, select a story that your students have not heard it, and then you can the climax or the ending you can ask students to decide on, right? For example, if there is a story where the bear is going and there are two ways, one goes to the city, one goes to the jungle, let your students decide which way the bear will go, right? Because large part of our critical thinking revolves around applying knowledge and evaluating solutions, right? So school teachers should encourage decision making as much as possible. Next is incorporating different points of view, yes, which is work in groups. So group projects and decisions are another excellent way to encourage critical thinking skills in children. Cooperative learning, which is also your collaborating and your group work and your discussions, it not only exposes students to the thought process of their classmates, but it expands their thinking and it expands their perspective towards the world, right? Incorporating different point of view. I think the biggest challenge most of the corporates are facing today is incorporating different point of view. We do not have patience to listen to other people or to also think and then accept different point of view, right? So this is something I think very important part of thinking skill. So this tactic not only establishes that an idea should be assessed from different point of view before an opinion is formed, but it gives students a chance to share their own viewpoints while listening to others and learning from others, right? Connecting different ideas, your interdisciplinary approach, right? Where we do math and there is science also, there is English also, there is history also. Connecting different ideas together. Because again, that is very key to teach critical thinking. For example, school teachers can ask students if they know anyone who has to take a bus to work, and if so, why it would be important for that person to also have a train schedule, right? Questions, when you ask questions like this, it helps children consider different situations. For example, like if there's a delayed bus, what am I supposed to do? And also think, it allows them to think potential solutions. So if buses are delayed, can I take trains, right? Helping them apply prior knowledge to the new context. Inspiring creativity, right? Art and craft is much beyond than hand printing and earbud printing and, you know, ladies finger printing or vegetable printing. It's much more than that, because imagination is important for critical thinking, right? You have to provide different mediums for art projects. Why always choose crayons? There are so many different mediums. So instead of giving them a structure always, let's inspire creativity and critical thinking by allowing them to choose, right? By providing them with different mediums. Brainstorming. Again, I feel that brainstorming should start from teachers again. It's important that teachers first brainstorm ideas. It's not that, oh, my class and I will do this activity for my class only. No, it has to be brainstorm, sharing. And if you do it, your children are seeing you, right? So brainstorm is an excellent learning tool for critical thinking or to develop thinking skills. It is especially becomes very, very crucial when it is paired with visual elements also that bring original thinking and classroom discussions to life. Yes. The next is research skills, which means I can ask questions, I can record ideas, I can look for answers on my own, right? Research is nothing but the ability to help ourselves to find an answer to a question or solution to a problem, right? So what are some important things? So I've kept this very simple. So here are 5 steps that I generally use to tackle when we want to develop research skills. The first one is, before having research skill, we should also have observational skills, right? Which means looking closely, looking slowly, close reading. All of this needs to be taught to children. Questioning skills. Even if you want to use ChatGPT, for example, you should know how to ask questions, right? You should know how to formulate your queries, your questions, right? So that is a skill that we need to teach our students. So let's not get, oops, I'll just stop sharing, I think. Okay, just 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. Ruchira, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Questioning skills. Yes, formulating conceptual questions. How do we formulate questions? How do we ask questions, right? Helping them ask the correct or open-ended questions. Media literacy, understanding sources of information. Today, I think digital literacy is extremely important because we need to help children or students understand what is the source of information. It is not necessary that social media is always the right source of information, right? There are different sources of information. So they need to also understand how do we evaluate reliability of the sources, right? Analyzing information. Now, critical thinking, also evaluating reliability of sources, close reading, questioning, going further, going out of the box, conceptual understanding, all that is part of analyzing information. They need all of this to understand whether this information is helpful to me or not. And the last is recording the research. Okay, I have got these answers, I have got these points, now I need to record it. So note taking, synthesizing data, drawing conclusions, reflecting, and communicating findings. All of this is part of recording the research. So these are the 5 steps to develop research skills in students. It starts from observational skills, then moving to questioning skills, media literacy, analyzing information, and recording the research. And the last skill that we are going to talk about is communication skills, right? And you know, I like the person who has designed this. I really like it because first thing the person has mentioned is I listen, and then it is I talk, right? So listening skills are, we know the importance of listening skills. So communication is not just expressing your thoughts, but it is listening, understanding, thinking, and then answering, right? Now, what are the strategies to develop communication skills? So for every theme, concept, or a particular unit, you can provide a list of difficult words with their meaning. Yes, you can also teach students how to look for the meaning or the words from dictionary. Searching for a word from dictionary is a skill that is long lost. No one is using it. But if you could teach your children what is dictionary and how they can use it, amazing. Yes, encourage students to write letters, blogs, and articles, right? You can also have bloggers coming to classrooms and giving them an idea on how to write articles, how to write blogs, right? giving opportunity for debating in class. You can also give them an open-ended topic and let them speak for a minute without any interruption, right? Of course, encourage role play. We've already spoken about it. Give opportunities for paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is also something that we need to teach. And this is something that even teachers can use when students are coming to you and discussing about some event that has happened in their life or over the weekend. When they finish talking, you need to paraphrase what they have said in your words. It also gives the person, the student, a signal that you are actively listening to them. So paraphrasing is a skill that needs to be incorporated. So again, I will say it starts from you. Yes, because paraphrasing will only happen if you are practicing it and modeling it in front of children. They will eventually learn it. You can also help students summarize whatever they have learned using flowchart, right? You can encourage children to present information in the form of table, graph. It need not be always answering question verbally or writing, right? Playing games like Damsharas are also good for developing communication skills. One thing that is missing many a times in our classroom is share learnings with others and reflect. Moment children learn something, even in pre-primary and primary, if you have given some important information in 2-liners and 3-liners, give children, let them do think, pair, and share. It's the quickest and the most easiest strategy that we can use to develop communication skills in children, right? So here we come to the end of it. It's time for some interaction. I know I've been speaking for long, but I had to share so much, but now we'll keep it open for everyone to speak. That's the email ID, because whatever I have spoken today about the skill-based education is something that Shimanli believes very strongly in, and they have created amazing curriculum, and you can get in touch with them. Yes. So Ruchira, should I stop sharing the screen now?
Sure. Anyone who has anything to contribute and talk about, how do you bring skill-based learning into your classrooms?
Yeah, because I would also love to know more strategies. If you're already doing something, I would love to hear that. Yes, can we have the cameras on, and can we just have, I would love to take, there should be some takeaway from me also.
Hi, can I speak? Hello.
Hi, yes, please.
Hi. Thank you so much for all those insights. I would just like to share, I am a global perspective teacher and a TOK teacher as well. And we are definitely encouraging a skills-based approach. I would just like to have some additional information about the questioning, the inquiry-based classroom, that aside from the wait time was just really, really important. Sometimes we could just move from, let's say there's a question, aside from increasing the wait time, what we can do is, instead of, because for example in JP we've got so many global issues, and in TOK so many things that critical thinking, and so I would just ask them, okay, if this is the question and I notice that, okay, even though I increase the waiting time, what I can do is, okay, what you can do now is just to discuss it with your peers, and then if not, discuss it as a group, and then have one solid answer, because in that way it will minimize their stress, because they're so stressed that, this is so difficult, we don't know, we don't want to be ashamed, especially with grade 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they can really be humiliated a lot if ever that they give a wrong answer. So yeah, just that.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's my takeaway.
Hi Grishma, this is Sunanda this side. Can I also speak?
Yes, please. We would love to hear
And
you.
thank you, Henley. Just now you have shared, and it was lovely hearing you as well. So in our schools, what we do is rightly said by everybody, like you and Henley. So to develop the 21st century skills, we must have we must to create the joyful learning for the pre-primary school, and definitely the inquiry based, like Henley also mentioned, that competency level needs to be there, the hot questions to be given, because curiosity would develop that creativity. So definitely the curious minds would get a chance to think, like you also mentioned in your last slides. Although I joined at a 6:36, so I missed the initial part. But definitely whatever I've heard, the communication, the listening is very important. So to develop the listening skills, that paraphrasing is amazing. We could actually do it, and we have been doing it. Right. So it was a lovely session, and thank you so much for being the host today and sharing. It would have been great if everybody could have shared their bit of ideas so that we could have learned more. Thank you, Henley, once again. It was lovely hearing you. Thank you. Thank you, Reshma. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I
Anyone
speak?
else? Yes, please.
I'm Binoy. I run a startup called the White Talks. We are mainly concerned with developing the learning habits of children. We are focused on the self-learning of the children. Sometimes after learning from school or tuition, when they come back to home, they have to learn by themselves to get that material well. So we have developed some programs, some few steps called, we call it 10-point learning system. So I'm very happy to attend this session today because I can resonate with my 10-point learning system with many of your points which you have mentioned. I always start when I'm a mechanical engineer by profession, but I quit the job and I'm focusing on teaching kids. So in this, whenever I start teaching kids, I use the word why. That's why we call it why talks. So as Henry and the person mentioned, it is very important to generate that curiosity in the children so that they will drive their learning by themselves. Whatever tools we provide in the school or whatever tools we provide, but if they don't have that curiosity and the interest in their mind, they are not going to drive by themselves. So it is very important to give that curiosity at the beginning. That's all. Thank you very much, Grishma. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Grishma, I missed one point here, which I was just hearing, Sarah, also. What we could, I am a strong believer of a poem written by Anita Wadley, so which is Just Playing. So I believe the more children play, they are learning, they are being creative in that, right? And to have a lot of art integration or whatever our boards are telling us, to have art and music and theater, inclusive education would definitely bring in the change in the students, because as soon as they know they are learning, they won't. So when you were talking about the communication, one day I'm an academic headman in my school. So one day my children were just participating in the Speak On activity on the stage. So they were speaking on festivals. So I was just passing by. I saw one child sitting at the corner and was not participating. So I asked the child, what happened? Why are you not participating? So the child said, I don't want to speak on festivals. And then while talking to the child, I simply said, while coming to the school, I saw a beautiful car passing by, and the child the eyes were big, smile was wide. Oh, I love cars. I have a lot of cars. So the objective of the concept was to develop the effective communication, develop the speaking skills from LSRW. So that speaking part was listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So speaking part was, the objective was to develop the good speaker, right? And the child wanted to speak on cars. So that was his choice. Why to limit the children with the festivals or any other topic? So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Ruchira.
Thanks, Greshma. I think you've been able to take us into these dynamic classrooms that focus on skills. A few strategies, like talking about pen pals and interactions that you brought in is something that I think quite a many people have written on the chat box as well, that they are able to resonate to these from their past experiences and would want to start implementing these once again into their classrooms. Thank you so much for this wonderful session, and thanks to the wonderful audience for being participative. We are sure that we would try to bring in more and more opportunities for your professional development. And now you know that your skill development partner Shiminli is also here for you to be able to connect and meet for all your skill-based learning in classroom. I would also want to highlight that we plan to organize sessions for students and parents to create and spread awareness on criticality of life skills, because it's all the stakeholders that should be able to talk about the importance of these life skills. I was reading through certain chats where people were talking about that all the stakeholders should be a part of it. The principals should buy in this concept. So what we are trying to do through this platform is just to buy in the idea of importance of life skills and bringing in more and more awareness to this. So if any one of you who wishes to be a part of this game-changing endeavor and wants us to organize such sessions for your school students, please feel free to write back to us. And we plan to bring advisors and counselors from various universities, especially in the US, to conduct sessions for the schools. That way, I think every student would be able to get to know the importance, and what teachers are talking into the classroom would start making more sense to them. That should be all from my side this evening. Thank you everyone for joining in, and thanks Greshma once again for this wonderful and insightful session. I believe I am happy going out of it now. Looking forward for a few more.
Lovely. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me for 1 hour. It was difficult to make it interactive because it's just 1 hour and we had so much to share. But I just hope that everyone has at least some takeaway or some points to ponder upon. So thank you so much, Ruchira, for coordinating this beautiful session. And thank you, Shiminli. And you guys are doing just amazing work. So all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, bye everyone. Have a great evening ahead.